on the street. Did that make a difference, and is that helpful?
Absolutely. I was a crime prevention director of the police department in the 90s, and I used to go to seminars and whatnot. Lighting is easily the #1 deterrent overall to preventing crime. Doesn't mean it's 100% foolproof, nothing is. But if you let businesses that are closed, if you put all the lights off and businesses versus lights on, left on, it's dramatic. Porch yard lights, motion lights. It's easily then, I mean, you could say, okay, a good mean dog or an alarm, but just in terms of just thinking, I've always thought of when I go into a block or I'm telling my daughters, don't get on your cell phone when you park, because that's the guys hunt for, single ladies in a car, and they see the light of the cell phone. It's like, oh, there's a good carjacking right there. And I try and give them all the things that I learned based on all the reports that I see. But what I just tell them is put yourself in the mind of somebody that wants to commit a crime. Do you want to go down that block and go through that street where all the lights are dark? Or do you want to go where everybody's lit up and you got porch lights on and you don't know what neighbors are up and what are not? The bad guy, the criminal element, usually going to go to the darker areas and the darker corners and the darker businesses where they can hide in darkness. The numbers are staggering. They really are. And I'm sure they're quite the same. Fair enough. Officer Walker, who's your regular visitor, is on vacation this week. And I wanted to at least say hi to the aldermen and meet y'all. So hopefully I can come to the next meeting where I don't have to go to Tiffany right after.
That's right. Right. Well, thank you, Captain, so much. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Captain. And look who showed up. Dan helped us get the meeting queued back up. So thanks, Dan. It's good to have you, but you can sit back and relax. Yeah. Next, we've got an update from our alderperson. So Alderperson Browning, we'll turn it over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron, and thank you for keeping the meeting going. And glad to see you, Dan. Dan, as you can see, works for St. Louis City SC, our favorite soccer team. And he's always busy. So
he just had a birthday.
Yeah, everyone wished Ben a happy birthday. Also, everyone wished my wife a happy birthday because it actually is her birthday today. You brought that on yourself. I'm just going to try to be real quick here. We'll start on crime since we were just talking about that. The Board of Aldermen is working on some things to increase public safety in the city. We're looking at using automated technology to enforce the law, specifically traffic law. We know we see a lot of red light runners. We see a lot of reckless driving. There was an issue with constitutionality with the cameras in the past, but there are constitutional workarounds to that. So we are looking into using that to help the police enforce traffic laws. We are also investing money into creating a consolidated 911 center. Right now, fire and EMS and police are all housed in different places, and that can lead to delays if you call 911 for routing the call to the correct place. Say you call fire, but you actually need EMS. They have to actually go and get someone in that totally different place, and it can lead to really critical delays. So having this all in one place will actually lead to faster response times. It'll make transferring calls from one place to the next much easier. And it should help with recruiting as well, making sure that we have those dispatchers, which are critically important to our city. So that's what's going on the crime and safety front. I am the vice chair of the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee, which is like the new streets committee in the city. We will be having a meeting tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. It will be available on Zoom. We are inviting public comment on our streets. So if you'd like to ask a question or express a comment, please go to the city website. You can find the Zoom link there and join us and tell us what's important to you. I also sit on the Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee. So I will be processing a lot of the development that happens in the city through that committee. So please feel free to reach out to me with any thoughts about that as well. And the last committee I sit on is the Transportation and Commerce Committee. We handle highways, airports, light rail, trains, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to probably be seeing some big upgrades to our airport coming up soon. So keep an eye out for that. I think that's really exciting for the city. In this neighborhood, I am focused on collecting data about trees, not the kind we like, the live ones, the dead ones. We know that there are several dead trees throughout the neighborhood that have been reported multiple times and are still out there being dead, being a hazard, especially in these storms that we see. So if you see one, please submit it to CSB. You can do that on the website. There's also a number you can call. It's really helpful to report the location, take a picture of it if you can. If you've already submitted it and it's still there, I would like to know. So if you could find the service request number that you get when you submit that report and send it to me, I would like to follow up on these things to make sure that we're taking care of these things, because we saw a storm a few weeks ago and it brought a tree right down on a car. And so just a reminder, don't park underneath dead trees either. That's another way to keep your car safe. Other than that, the board is just working on its normal stuff. We are down to 14 people as part of the consolidation, so we are running very efficiently. Today we had a 9-minute HUDs meeting. It was exciting. But we are trying to serve you well. So if you have an issue, I'm your alderman, so I am here to represent you. I want to make sure I know what you care about and what you're interested in. Please reach out to me and I will see what I can do to help improve life for you in this city. On that note, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
So two things I've heard so far. One is the police officer talking about lighting your porch in a dark alley. And first question is, like, I'm wondering if you guys have any plans to put light in those dark areas where crime leaders and stuff tend to do their exchange or hang out to do their stuff. Do you guys have any plans? That's the first question. Do you guys have anything in your plan or roadmap to address that? That's the first question. Second question is, I understand the idea of putting speed traps on the highway to catch people that are speeding. That's great. But on Shoto Avenue at nighttime, there's some people speed racing, doing drag racing in the middle of the night, waking up the neighborhoods, making them 60, 70 miles per hour. How do you guys plan to combat and slow them down so they don't, damage people, kill people, or do whatever it is? But it just seems like those speed trap cameras will not capture those people doing that.
So the first question about improving lighting, that is certainly something I'm looking into doing. I know that people have brought up issues with Shoto Park and criminal activity that's occurring there. I am looking into what it would cost to install additional pedestrian lighting. So that's definitely something you can talk to me about. And then I would use some of the ward capital money that I get to install some extra lighting to increase security there. If you do see any city streetlights that are out, please, again, report it to CSB. They'll get out and fix that. And this is a fun fact. If it's in the alley, it's probably by one of Amron's lights. So report it to them. That's just how it works. Don't ask me why. So Amron has the lights in the alley, and it's because that's where they run their power lines through. And those lights are on their power lines. So they take care of the lights and maintain them. So if one of those lights is out, and that happened in my alley a couple of years ago, and I called Amron and they came out and fixed it that week. So it's they're easy to deal with and they'll fix that. But if it's on the street and it's on city, what we call those Cobra heads, that's city maintained, and those lights are things that we can send a crew out to fix. The speed trap question, yes. On Shoto, we can certainly look into some traffic calming measures. Make that street, right now it's really wide and straight, and so it just kind of encourages that type of behavior. Not excusing it, of course. Those people are reckless, and you're right, someone could get hurt, and we want to make sure we're not having that. So we can look at street improvements that would calm the traffic, whether that's speed bumps in certain places, whether that's bump outs that narrow the street in other areas so that people don't feel like they can just rip down it. We can certainly explore that, but I'm interested in exploring a solution to that because I know that is a wide and very well-traveled road, and I don't want anyone to get hurt on that. Yes.
Hi, we're residents on Boyle and we experience the same thing. Like the traffic, how quickly they don't even stop at the stop signs. They just fly through Manchester to Vandeventer. My car has been hit 4 times. We're working on trying to put a driveway in, but it's insane. So we also would really like some focus and attention on maybe putting in, and we have spoken to other property owners on that face Boyle, and we all agree we need to find a way to slow them down. Because right at Vandeventer and Boyle, oh my gosh, they're going like at least 60.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the roads right now are perilous, and we need to really look at how we're designing all the roads in the city. So that is a priority of our committee, of the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee. We are looking at updating our complete streets ordinance because right now, yeah, vehicles can get up to deadly speeds, and every little bit that you can slow cars down makes it safer for people who are not in cars. It also makes it safer for other people who are in cars. I don't want to seem like I'm just favoring pedestrians here. If you get hit by another driver who's going 60 versus someone who's going 30, it's going to be a big difference in your life too, even if you're in another vehicle.
Just two small things. One is we've noticed that there are some homeless people that are now camping on the north side of Shoto Park, on the other side of the fence. So there's a fence there, and that must be what is then part of state property possibly, or something like that. But there is, and it's fairly extensive. I just don't know if anyone knows about that, whether that might be an issue. And then the second thing is just about you and the aldermen, now that they're just 14, do you have extra staff, or are you living with the same amount of staff that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I will look into the people over by Shoto Park. I think we have outreach efforts that we can kind of send over and check on those people, see if we can find them more permanent places. Nobody actually wants to sleep next to a highway, so I imagine this is a last ditch kind of effort to find somewhere to be. So I'll see if I can contact someone about reaching out to them and see if we can find a better place for them to be. I will be getting staff. I don't have them yet, but the new board, each alder person will have a legislative assistant. So we are in the process of hiring for that. Applications are still open, I think. So if you're interested, you can apply on the city website. It's going to be a rather intensive position. It starts at $55,000 a year. And it's basically somebody who's going to be assisting me in every single facet of the job. And that's really exciting news. I think it'll help move our city forward in a lot of ways. All the people are very busy all the time, so we don't always have time to focus on the legislation that we need to do to keep the city moving. And that person will be helping a lot with this. The other thing that reminds me that is open, this is not related to my office, but we have a charter commission. It is working on updating our charter. We have this wonderful founding document of the city, but it is old and outdated in a lot of ways. And our city is, I often call it an 18th century city that's lumbering along in the 21st century. So we're looking at updating that charter, and there's a citizen commission that will be working on that. The applications are open until June 6th. So if you're interested in that, you can put your application in on the city website. Also, I encourage you to reach out to me because I will be naming 3 people from the ward to recommend to the mayor. And then the mayor will be picking 9 people overall in the city. So if you want to be one of the 3 names nominated for the 9th ward, I recommend coming and talking to me. Give me a chance to get to know you so that I can make the best recommendation that I can to the mayor, and we can have a really good commission. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Yeah, Ron, we got you next, but if you want to jump in,
The It's tricky. You have to
We're good. Ron Coleman, who will introduce next, may have a comment on the camp that you mentioned, Alan, north of Shoto Park. It looks like they are aware of it and have been in touch with City Human Services. So I'm sure we can look for additional support for that those folks as well. Any other questions for our alder person? Oh, we do. Thank you. Well, yeah, this will be the last question. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thanks for taking our questions for so long. I know we're way over. I had to step out earlier because my apartment was broken into a couple of months ago, and having cops talk about safety was a little too much for me. So this is related, but my suspicions is that it was broken into by someone related to the owners of my building. And I'm wondering, as a neighborhood level and as a alder level, what we're doing about short-term rentals. So this happened on a weekend. I'm in a sixplex. 4 of the units are currently unoccupied while they're being renovated for Airbnbs and nursing rentals. And my downstairs neighbor is out of town who's now moving out of the building. So I'm the last actual tenant in a building of 6. Yeah.
First of all, I'm really sorry that happened to you. That is scary and frustrating. And yeah, I can imagine. We are looking at regulating short-term rentals in the city. I have been in early discussions about the legislation that we're preparing. And you might have seen that the Planning Commission recently updated our city code to account for short-term rentals, to just define what they are. That's the first step of creating legislation. So we are looking at creating legislation surrounding that. I can just speak about it in broad terms right now. It will not outright ban short-term rentals, but it will regulate them, and that they will be registered with the city. We'll know who's in control of them. There'll be a shorter leash on properties that are currently Airbnbs or Verbos or any of those things, such that if there's a problem with them, it won't take much for the city to yank their ability to have that be a short-term rental. We want to make sure that properties, we respect people's right to do what they want with their property that they own. But the moment that becomes a detriment to the people that live around it, that becomes a problem for the rest of the city. And so we're trying to find a happy medium where we can allow tourism to take place in the city, allow people to go and visit neighborhoods and be around those neighborhoods and enjoy them, but also not be detrimental to the neighbors who already live here.
Last couple questions.
Yeah, sorry.
But this has been fantastic.
Just to comment on that, in some cities, the owner of the Airbnb has to live either on the property or next door to it or something like that. And that has changed the whole makeup of Airbnb.
Last comment.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on how you plan to combat this. And the reason why I'm asking this is, if a property that used to be occupied, let's say by tenants, or long-term tenants, was recently converted to Airbnb, and you have new faces and strange people coming into the neighborhood, how do you guys plan to reconcile that and deal with the crime issues? Given the officer says if you see strange cars or strange people around the neighborhood, you can call them in. Given that, we do have this thing going on right now where people are calling police or cops on innocent people. They just happen to be Airbnbs. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's one of the issues that we're looking at. So, to Alan's point, what other cities have done is you either have to live in it or you have to live adjacent to it, which immediately puts it more in control. So your neighbor, if they have a Airbnb, you'll know that is an Airbnb they're running, and you can easily contact them because they're right next door. I don't know if we're looking at doing that restrictive, but I think there is going to be a cap of some sort. Again, I can't speak to very specific detail at this time. It's still being drafted and things are still kind of changing from day to day. So I don't want to give people any kind of hope about something or disappointment. It's still being formed. But the general notion here, and the thing that I'm going to be fighting for as your alderman, is that I believe you have a right to know who your neighbors are. I think that makes stronger communities. I think it makes them safer because you can know if that person's supposed to be there or not. So the thing that this legislation should include, and I'm going to make sure includes, is that if someone is starting an Airbnb or a Vrbo or a short-term rental, they have to not only notify their neighbors, but their neighbors have some sort of say in their ability to run that. And again, I'll mention we're looking at having a relatively short temperance for this. So if people have a short-term rental and there's a wild party one weekend and guns are shot off and there's drugs involved and the police have to respond, that person's not going to be able to have that Airbnb anymore. It'll be that quick because we've had that in this ward. We had it a couple weekends ago up on Washington, and it is terrifying for residents. There is an 8-year-old child that is traumatized because of the shooting that happened outside their house. That is something that we cannot tolerate in the city, and I'm going to be working to make sure that we don't have that happening, because we deserve to know who our neighbors are. We deserve to have safe communities. And if the short-term rental is the cause of that commotion, of that violence, then we need to get a handle on that.
Thank you so much, Alderperson Browning. We appreciate you being so close and always participating in our meetings. So thanks for being here. Next, we've got Ron Coleman for a quick neighborhood update. Ron, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I don't have a lot. Thankfully, the alderman and the captain covered a lot, but I know a lot of you have been contacting me about the residential parking district and when those the permit application process will be moving forward. I was told the first week of June, so coming up very quickly. And I'll make sure the neighborhood association has the information and can send it out to you. And I'm sure it'll be publicized some other ways. So that's good news. In the meantime, if you're getting tickets, let me know and I'll get those taken care of for you. The encampment up by Shoto Park that Alan referenced, we are working with them. They moved from the roundabout on Tower Grove. It's the same group of people, so we know who they are and I'm trying to get them help. But as you know, it's a difficult situation. We've got people living in some vehicles as well, one on Boyle, one on Forest Park Avenue. We're working with the Neighborhood Security Initiative, which is funded by the taxing districts and Washington University, and they provide outreach support as well. They've actually paid to help get these people's vehicles repaired, tow them, get them repaired, and get them on their way. So that's been good. But yeah, you guys talked about lighting and trees and a lot of the other stuff I deal with, but just remember I'm your resource as well as the alderman. If you need anything, please let me know.
Any questions for Ron? If not, Ron, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Enjoy this beautiful weather.
We absolutely will. Next, we have a treasurer's report from Cami. Cami?
Real quick about lighting. If I know it can help reduce crime, but if you have the luxury and you're like replacing lighting, be sure to choose fixtures that shine light downwards and not upwards to protect our urban wildlife. All right, now to treasurer's report. So our ending cash this month was $2,875.89. We had some big dues and donation contributions. So thank you to people who became members, myself included. Just 4 months late, 4 months into the year. A reminder that membership starts over in January. So if you want to be a voting member of the neighborhood association, you can pay via Cash App or cash or check. Meet me after the meeting, or you can deliver it to my home if you know where I live, or I can let you know where I live. And it's pay what you want, sliding scale. We want everyone to have the opportunity to participate and be a member.
Thank you, Cami. Any questions for our treasurer, Cami? Thanks, Cami. Next, we have some really exciting neighborhood updates that Dan's going to walk us through.
Sure, thank you. One note on the treasurer's report or how to pay. We only take Cash App. We do not take Venmo. We are locked out of our Venmo for a couple of years. Somebody who moved away has the telephone connection. That's a whole thing. So no Venmo, please. Just Cash App. I don't think you did. I just wanted to specify because people have tried to pay Venmo recently, and I just wanted to be like, no. Cool. Some community updates. As always, Park Central has their Stay in Place program. They provide a lot of assistance throughout the neighborhood and other neighborhoods in St. Louis, assistance including mortgage assistance, water or sewer assistance, HVAC cleaning programs. They'll help cut your grass. Lots of assistance opportunities if you live in the neighborhood. For most of these, you need to have a COVID impact statement or be a qualifying member. Qualifying members are typically seniors or people who live under a certain poverty line. If you want to determine if you or your neighbor qualify, you can call 314-535-5311. Ooh, events. So every month we have these wonderful cleanup events in the neighborhood. We do a different stretch every month. Maybe this month we'll do Kings Oak and go over there. Every fourth Saturday at 10 a.m. we meet at Manchester and Newstead. We bring all the gloves and all of the bags you need. Our next one is on May 27th, and we will head across Kings Highway and clean up the neighborhood of Kings Oak. And then we're going to throw a happy hour. Get to know each other, have some drinks, have some food, chit chat, ask questions. It sounds like we have a lot of opinions here, a lot of great questions and concerns. I think a happy hour is a great way to kind of talk and share ideas. So we're going to reserve a table at Urban Chestnut June 15th. I believe that is a Thursday at 7 p.m. So come on over and say hi and have a good time. And last weekend, Cami Lewis, salute to you for getting all this mulch put into Shoto Park. So at the corner of Newstead and Shoto, there were several truckloads of mulch that we moved around, planted around some trees, and then kind of rescaped the corner here and planted some annuals thanks to Brightside. So that corner will be popping real soon. We'll take care of these 2 dead trees somehow eventually and maybe replace them with 2 others. That's in the near future. So we do events like this. We might have another, I think that's actually accompanying another slide. Here's some awesome photos. Look at all these people working, doing great stuff. Tom watering the flowers. Salute to him. And then look at that. That corner is going to burst. Thank you again, Cami, for leading that. It's going to change the way people walk that corner. We also have an event called devolcano mulching. If you haven't heard of devolcano mulching, it's where the mulch along a tree is in the shape of a volcano, essentially. And what it does is it traps in too much moisture around the trunk of the tree, causing it to get potential diseases or rot, fall over, die, an early death. You don't want these trees to die. There's spots all along the neighborhood with these, and recently along Manchester, unfortunately, the new mulching over there is almost all volcano mulch, maybe like a foot high. So on Wednesday, June 7th at 6 p.m., we're going to save all of these trees. We're going to band together as a neighborhood and remove some of this mulch from these trees. Join us for that. I don't know how many gloves we'll have. I believe Aaron, not this Aaron, but a different Aaron will provide a lot of gloves. Yeah. Oh, great. We have gloves, we'll have buckets, and we need your hands. So Wednesday, June 7th, coming up quickly. And then, yeah, more photos of volcano mulching. We'll do some tree planting in the fall, hopefully, as Michael had pointed out, point out the dead trees, and maybe we can get them replaced with some new trees. And then in September, we're still planning to hold our neighborhood night out. We hold it every year. We have a free food truck. Last year, it was provided by WashU. Thank you very much. We had free beer from Urban Chestnut. We'll bring some games. We invite local organizations to come out and more. It's always a good time. It's like happy hour on steroids outside. So come to that September 9th, still planning it. And if you'd like to plan events, help us, help you. We need people who can design some flyers, who can hang some flyers. That's always key. Hanging flyers is always the hardest part. Maybe not draft sponsorship opportunities. That's always lofty, but think of ideas on how we can get people out in the park or out together. And ooh, here it goes there. I can hear myself now. Yeah, stop on by, shoot me an email if you want to help with events. With that, we probably have about 15 more minutes. I think this might be a longer discussion for tables for a different day, but we can get some thought starters in, right? I'm going to flip it over. Do you want to lead it? You can lead it. Yeah. We can tag team it, man. So we wanted to use the last 15 minutes of today to kind of think through how you experience walking and biking in the neighborhood. The infrastructure in the neighborhood to support that, to make it a more desirable, inviting experience. Everything from the litter situation where you live and how that can be improved. I'm not going to read all these questions. I think we can try to go by it one by one and just have quick thoughts or quick discussions if we want, and then we can table it for another time. Yeah. I guess we'll start with litter then. I don't want to hog the mic from you, man.
No, please. The hope was to have some space tonight. Typically, we have a couple other guest speakers, and because we had some extra space tonight, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to hear from y'all about any of your thoughts in the neighborhood, specifically about infrastructure or just general comments. We've had some great conversations already, but what other thoughts do you have? What should we be focusing on as we look toward the second half of the year to just make our neighborhood a better place to be? The first thought starter we had here was ideas about litter and trash. Does that spur any ideas for anybody? Any comments on litter and trash in the neighborhood? Either or, both.
Back of the buildings usually have trash littered everywhere. And I think because of these trucks that pick up the trash, sometimes they don't put back the trash the proper way. They have it on the side, and some of them are just there for like days and people are still throwing trash beside it. That encourages like a wildlife to go and just make a mess of the whole thing. And also those big trucks tend to destroy the roads that are on the back of the house. The front is okay, decent, but you still have all these potholes. Do they have any plans about fixing that? Curious. Yes, you know, when they do all these constructions and fixing things, and they tend to disrupt. I'm wondering if the city has any plans to address that, and as well as have those people trained to make sure when they're taking out the trash or lifting them up, that they actually put it back properly, and not just toss it like that and just go.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I'm Sarah. I live on 4500 block of Arco. I said that right this time. We all had our sewer lateral collapse in the alley. A lot of what you see is just aging infrastructure that has deteriorated over time and will wash out. Our sewers are very deep and a lot of the sewers are brick lined. So that just leads to infrastructure failure over time. Part of our sewer lateral insurance, when we pay for our city services for sewer and water, goes to that insurance fund. And so that helps pay for the collapse when it happens, as long as it's in the alley. So if you do see something starting to cave in, please report it, because that is something that the city can act on, or at least MSD. I'm not really sure. Somebody else might be able to speak more about that. But I know that it's not necessarily the construction, it's just the infrastructure where it ties in. So maybe not helpful.
I know for me, and we've talked about pedestrian trash a little bit over the past couple weeks, but it seems like there could be a really strategic plan about where we put trash cans. I walk my dog a lot, and so I have business that I get rid of, but I also live close to a restaurant, and there's the couple of trash cans that we've got at least near where I'm at, sort of on Shoto and Taylor. Those fill up really quick, and I know we've spoken with Ron about them too. And when they get emptied regularly, it's kind of good. But there maybe could be a more strategic placement of those sort of small pedestrian trash cans along sidewalks.
Yeah, we talked about the trash cans at Shoto Park. They have like one, and the city didn't used to empty it in the previous meetings. And, or I'm sorry, in the Shoto Park. And now they are regularly emptying, and it's wonderful. People are in the park every single day and they fill it up, and that's fine. And the city empties it. The city has already said previously that they're not going to put any more out there because they don't have, they're very lucky they empty the trash at all because they have staff enough to do it currently, and they're currently doing it. Yay. That also addresses the issue in the alley. The trash people are never going to change. That's the way they work. We have squirrels eating trash out of every single trash bag. Everybody puts their trash in bags in the dumpster like we're supposed to, and the squirrels make a hole in every one of them. And then trash truck comes and picks it up, and it falls in the alley. You know whose responsibility that is? People that live right there in the alley. If your alley's full of trash, talk to your neighbors and and encourage them. Say, sometime this week, let's go out and pick up our trash because it's our trash.
That is very true. What I'm referring to is the trash bin itself, like the city trash bins. Usually when they empty it, they put it upright, so at least the flaps and everything. Sometimes I see some of them lying on the side. How is that supposed to be used? That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I would think we should report those. If we've got a specific instance and location, I'm confident our buddy Ron would love to hear about it and help follow, connect us with the right folks to support that, especially if there's damage or it's disrupted in a significant way like that. Absolutely. Cami?
I used to live near Boyle and Gibson, and which is really close to Manchester, get lots of Manchester trash. And on some neighbors and I were thinking like, it'd be great to encourage businesses on Manchester to use compostable things that might discourage the use of styrofoam and plastic, or get the businesses on Manchester to have recycling bins or things along Manchester, something along that sort. Also, I don't think I've ever seen a recycling bin in the alley or a rolly cart recycling bin that was properly sorted. Like there's always something that shouldn't be in there, which then that contaminates the truck that it goes into. And I think there was a report recently that only 30% of the city's recycling is actually getting recycled because it's contaminated. And that I think maybe our neighborhood could do an education campaign or something to like get our neighbors to know what should go in.
What is the city recycling? I don't think.
We're working on hiring drivers. We're working on hiring drivers for both trash and recycling pickup. So in some places in the city, the recycling trucks are picking up, and in other places they're not. And I think it kind of rotates depending on where the drivers are that day. But yeah, it is something we're working on improving. But Cami is right. We could use better sorting. It's single stream, but that doesn't mean you can throw everything in it. And there are helpful stickers on the dumpsters that tell you what you can put in there. And while I have the microphone, please break down your boxes. That's it.
Yeah, no, and please keep these ideas coming. Again, the hope of the next 10 minutes or so is just to grab as much comments or feedback from y'all as we can. But I wonder if we can shift into your walking experience in the neighborhood. Again, trash may be a part of it, but what's it like to walk in the neighborhood? I'm going to start over here and then we'll work this way.
Yeah, so there's that baseball field at the corner of Newstead and Vista. And then I think that baseball field was just never used. I never see anybody in there. It's right next to the Adams School. So I'm just wondering, if that there's a great green space there. Just, if it might be, it'd be nice if there's something going on in there. Yeah.
Any other comments, or does anybody know anything about the baseball field? Do we see games in the summer? I don't know.
It might have been a fever dream, but I do feel like I've seen people play there, but not very often. Yeah, I feel like I've seen soccer or something, but yeah, it's not used very often. First thought comes to mind, start a kickball league in the neighborhood, maybe. I'm not very coordinated, but walking and trash related, I've seen some houses south of Manchester that just have a trash can out in front of their house for people walking by, and I assume they empty it. And I have been on the lookout for a similar trash can to put out in front of my house. So that's a way that we could help supplement the trash that's picked up by the city.
In regards to Adams School, Michael and I were actually just talking about that the other week because we also noticed it was very underutilized. We haven't had a chance to look into it yet, but I think based on our understanding is that it was paid for through a grant from the St. Louis Cardinals. And so there might be requirements around its use. And so we need to look into that because when we both are working from home, we go, for walks at lunch. And one of the things that we noticed is that the only playground equipment that Adams School has is blacktop. And so on really hot days, you'll just see all the kids sitting under the playground equipment because it's the only shade in the entire area. And we were wondering, well, is there something else that they could do? But that's going to require figuring out the funding mechanism that was used for the baseball diamond, whether it can be used for something else, and then negotiating with the St. Louis public school system as well, because that's their property. So, but we are thinking about that. Yeah.
I just add that the neighborhood association would be the perfect vehicle to approach Adams and talk to them about that. And I would absolutely support you in that effort if you'd like to try to work something out there, because I think it would benefit the whole neighborhood to see that put to more use.
People have probably heard me talk about this over the years, but one of the things that drew us to Forest Park Southeast in the first place, also 11 years ago, was maybe 12 now. Being close to the Metrolink and having the opportunity. I've got a family member flying in this weekend and they asked me, hey, are you going to pick me up or should I just take the Metrolink in? And that's a really cool option to be able to have that transit flexibility. And I think that that's something that's maybe underutilized for one reason or another, but I know I am a vocal supporter of the Metrolink. And when we have work events, I will try to take the Metrolink downtown or go to other events, sporting events, using the Metrolink to try and promote more people using it by doing it myself. So just thanks, Metrolink.
Cami, your thought made me think of, I think I was in Tower Grove South over the weekend and I saw a homeowner had doggy bags in front of their house, but it was grocery bags that they had like stapled a little canister to the tree, but a great like grassrootsy solution similar to the trash can idea. I think that's great. We had another question about just sidewalk experience, and maybe this is similar to walking, but what do you think about the sidewalks in the neighborhood, or what are maybe some opportunities for improvement on the sidewalks or walking?
We being Washu, I think was a party to the baseball field, so I can quietly look into the details of that and report back. That way, if the neighborhood association takes action, you'll know what path to take.
But my wife and I send our kid to daycare on the WashU campus. So we come home across the sidewalks every day in the stroller, and some of them have some big bumps. I don't know if that's a big deal. I'm sure it's roots and stuff going by, but it's relatively traversable, but sometimes difficult.
Speaking of roots and sidewalk, part of that is because trees don't have enough space to grow, especially on Manchester where there are volcano mulch problem, whatever mulch volcanoes. Aaron Dohan had brought up the idea of something called depaving, where you remove parts of the sidewalk to give the trees more space. It means more laterally, but that could help, like on Manchester. And if we plant smaller trees so they don't have giant roots that affect the sidewalks, and giving them, if we have the opportunity to repave a sidewalk, give trees more space, and would help cool you off while you walk around too.
The shade is really great. Every once in a while I have a low tree branch that I don't want to cut it, but I move it away. I don't know what the right thing to do is.
I'm just going to piggyback on what she just said to ask a question. And actually I have three. One is, I know the city's been investing in planting trees on the sidewalk. And if the roots are the cause of this crooked paved sections being all erupted and twisted a little bit, that you can push a stroller on it, did we take that into consideration to plant trees that will not do that? Or are we just planting trees so we can deal with that in the future when it grows to that, gets to the state we're disrupting the sidewalk? First question. Second is, what do you call it, McDonald's house that they have building, the sidewalk is closed off. So you have to like go on the road, and that makes it a little bit unsafe and stuff like that. Do they have a timeline when that might be put back so the pedestrian can have a safer walk, or do we have to contend with this blockage that they have? And third question I have for you is, I enjoy looking at trees and seeing the blue skies and everything, but I'm wondering how much of the architecture of St. Louis is being changed with this gigantic buildings that have been erupting here and there that are blocking the flow of air and sunlight and the rest of them. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, Dan, maybe you can help respond and then maybe wrap us up. Great thoughts. And I think an appropriate sort of long-term forward-thinking view on the neighborhood. I think that's exactly the sort of theme we wanted to get at. So I appreciate the sort of depth, I think, there and forward thinking.
As for the trees on the sidewalks, the sidewalk street lawn trees, forestry does have a plan in place for any tree that does get planted to properly go with what is already on the street, or mirror it to some degree, or properly fit it to where it needs to be so it doesn't overgrow. They do their work, they do their research, and I think any new tree that is planted would be the appropriate size for that. As for the construction along Shoto at the McDonald House, don't know the construction timeline on that. I think it would just be once construction wraps up is when the sidewalk would become available again, which is probably another flying along. What's it, like 2023 probably, early 2024? So we can try to see if there's a firmer time on that. And then I didn't catch, what was the later question?
Just the idea of the taller buildings and the development sort of taking over some of the nature.
There is a form-based code that dictates how high a building can be. And really, we're kind of at the jurisdiction of what that form-based code says. So buildings, for example, along Manchester can be a little bit higher than the buildings within the neighborhood, and along Kings Highway, buildings can be up to about 7 stories. So that the form-based code kind of dictates the height. If we're brought in earlier to a development, maybe there's an opportunity to work with the developer to not have as high of buildings, but that's kind of the situation at hand right now.
Thank you all. We are right at time. I'm sorry, we kind of lost track. Appreciate the great discussion. Let's head straight out. We have the space till 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock sharp, so we'll respect that.
Woo!
And really, we'll see you next month.
Happy hour, June 15th. Devolcano mulching, June 7th. We have a list of speakers. All right, stopping share. Thanks everyone for attending online.
You know it.